Welcome back to the Daily Drum on WHUR and Sirius XM Channel 141. This is the Insight segment. I'm Harold Fisher. It is a Fitness Friday. And before you hit the all-you-can-eat buffet and spend your entire paycheck, maybe you should do a checkup on your well-being and your wallet. There is a really big summit coming up next week focused on your mind, body, spirit, and your finances. And we will talk about that in a bit. But we will also talk about the need for a health and wealth transformation in the DMV. My guests are Amanda Stevenson, founder and CEO of the Fresh Food Factory. Peter Noble is a licensed clinical social worker. And Tamara King is a financial professional. She's also an insurance agent at New York Life. Hey, look, thank you all so much for sharing this really important conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Let's talk about a few fast facts first. We've heard these things before. In our community, significant disparities exist in wealth and health outcomes compared to white Americans, and Black households hold a fraction of the wealth. And of course, they face higher rates of poverty, poorer health, and shorter life expectancies. Now, before we talk about the summit, I really want to talk about the reality of those fast facts and how there are links between our health and our wealth. And I'd like for each of you to kind of talk about that just a bit. And I want to start with you, Amanda, from your wheelhouse as it relates to what we eat and our physical health.
Yes. Again, I started the Fresh Food Factory Market in Washington, D.C. We started in 2019 just because of what you were speaking to, like statistics, what they show in our community. It said that residents east of the Anacostia River live some 17 years less than those west of the Anacostia River. And that reminded me of the parallel of my father's trajectory. I grew up on a farm in rural Virginia, and my father was a blind farmer, and he was given a life expectancy of 6 months to 1 year to live. He was given a terminal prognosis of cancer with that shortened lifespan. But he had faith, and he said, nobody could tell me when I'm going to go. That's between me and my maker, right? And we had to then match that faith with adjusting his diet, working on his food intake, also working out a plan for him as it relates to his fitness. And being transplanted into DC, and I moved through certain neighborhoods, I saw disparities based on access. Certain neighborhoods had access to healthcare, had access to retail, had access to food accommodation, had access to better education. And then I went to Anacostia, did some work here, and I saw that it was much different. But I decided to root myself here because I saw the parallel again between my father's life trajectory and the community's trajectory. And I started the Fresh Food Factories Market to answer the call, because it's been hard to get a steady company to come in to provide quality food. And again, there is a direct correlation between these outcomes that we all have. I've worked with Sibley Johns Hopkins and a few others to develop ideations around how we address these issues. And the best solution that I could come up with is being the change that I want to see, provide these experiences. So we offer local, healthy, and ethnic foods, not just nutrition, but as medicine. And I learned what foods are good for medicinal what have medicinal properties, and how we can use these foods to heal based on what I went through with my father. And I use these foods too to provide income for our community. We have a lot of people who make great food products, but they don't have a place, a certified kitchen to prepare them in. They don't have an outlet to sell them at. So we provide that. So again, we're creating that cycle of health and wealth in our community. We are making money, but we're spending money outside of our community. So the wealth is never generated in our community. Or we're looking for better health outcomes outside of our community, so the health never generates. So I wanted to kind of close the loop and create that cycle in our community. And again, and that provide training. So that's kind of where Peter Noble and Ms. Tamara King has come in, because we've been working together to make sure the people who go through our training and participate in our services at the Fresh Food Factory could benefit from this holistic approach to address these issues and these ills in our communities.
Let me ask you, Peter. We've heard a lot recently about mental health as a whole, but also particularly in our community. Are people getting the message, or are they still giving a lot of pushback for addressing even some of the foundational issues about mental health?
Well, that's a good question, Harold. Well, we're fortunate in some ways because there are a lot of mental health services that are available east of the river. DC Department of Behavioral Health has a number of core service agencies that offer mental health, a range of mental health services to folks that receive Medicaid and who are under managed care organizations. However, there has been, I guess, a history with people having some distrust of mental health services, psychiatry. So availability does not always mean a readiness to use. I think African Americans, like all Americans, have been exposed increasingly to positive takes around mental health, so that there is an increased willingness to be involved. I think during the pandemic, it slowed a lot of people down and opened people to have a greater readiness to enter into treatment, whether it's for substance use or whether it's because of depression or anxiety or past traumas. So I think there's still work to be done. And I don't think mental health is perfect. A lot of the ways of thinking about issues and the way to address those issues in some ways are couched in language that's culturally kind of bound. So I think it's going to really require for folks to have some kind of cultural competency. How can I serve this community who has needs, just like any other human community would, in a way that uses language, that communicates respect, where there are men and women that are practitioners that come from the community and people have a sense of trust from. So,
yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Tamara, I wanted to ask you something specific that was in the news today. So you're going to be our money news person for this conversation, at least for the first few minutes. And we can talk about some other more broader issues. DoorDash has announced that it is going to implement the delaying of full payment to its customers. So if your meal is, I don't know, $50 for DoorDash, you may be able to buy now, pay later. You may be able to pay half now, pay later. The company says it's to provide options and convenience. I think it's crazy, but I could be wrong. What's your take on it?
Me personally, I don't like debt. I don't like anything about pay now, pay later, personally. But for some people that works. I don't like the idea of the extra charges DoorDash charges for delivery. I think it's insane. So when, as far as DoorDash is concerned, I would say opt out of it. Don't do it. Go. Like, it's healthy to just sometimes take a walk to your local restaurant if you can. But more my focus would be on protecting, your assets and building legacy. So that's more my specialty. I would love it.
But you do know how to count, and you do know how to spend or not spend. And I think to that point, when you talk about protecting, legacy, are members of our community, getting that? I've spoken to some people who say, I want to spend it all now, and y'all are on your own.
Mm-hmm. Right. It is definitely challenges, especially when it comes to health and food insecurity. That's why all of it is relative. When you're dealing with mental health, sometimes there's generational things you have to deal with for people to understand the concepts of financial literacy, or what they should put in their mouth, or why they need to heal. So this is the main reason why I feel connecting with Amanda and Mr. Noble. It's going to be life changing for the DC community.
Are you? I wonder also, because we have seen the up and down of the stock market over the past 2 weeks, whatever the cause, and we can get in. I won't even get into the politics of it, but if you want to get into the facts of it, I mean, for example, the Dow Jones Industrial Average has lost over the past 3 weeks 2,000 points. It is now slowly going back up, but even for those people who are trying to pay attention to it, what kind of conversation might you have with them about those kinds of things regarding investment when they may be wholly unfamiliar with what's going on?
Okay, so in the financial industry, people are usually go for help when moved out of fear, just like the pandemic. Life insurance agents made so much money because people are concerned, okay, I'm not going to be able to take care of my family if this person dies. So now in this situation, we have a new president in office, and things are changing. So anytime there's a new president or there's an election, the stock market crashes, or there's some issues when it comes to interest rates. So for some people in another cultural background, they may say, okay, this is the opportunity for me to buy because it's low.
It's a correction.
Yes. And they take advantage of people's fear or the opportunity. Some other people may say, okay, I want to take my 401k and move it to something more secure. So that's where understanding the how can I say, what insurance agents do, how it elevates to financial planning in the community. So knowing what products are out. So it's very important. So being relevant, having relevant information for the community, that's where I'm planning on connecting.
Amanda, talk to me about the summit, kind of in this last minute before the break. Give me, the rundown of where it is, when it is, and how people can get more information, and briefly tell me what they can expect, and we'll continue more on the other side. But I want people to understand some of the details and the logistics of how they can participate.
Sure. This is called the Wealth Summit. It's a fusion between wellness and wealth. And we look at this as a transformation for our community because we do understand that we need something. And a lot of times we could be the solution to our own problems. So we're bringing different experts in to talk about exploring superfoods. They could get a BMI assessment. We're going to be doing a lot of food demonstrations. And we're
before
going
I let you continue, because like I said, I have a minute. That woman can talk, can't she?
Oh, sorry. So,
sorry. Where is it? When is it?
Okay, my bad. Okay. So it's going to be Saturday, March 29th. You can register at 10:30 a.m., but it starts at 11. We're going to have a lot of panelists talking about health and wellness in different zones to actually break out.
And where is it going to be, Amanda?
It's going to be at the Anacostia Art Center. That's 1231 Marionberry Avenue in the Great Southeast Washington, D.C.
Can you register on site, or do you have to go online?
You could actually go online to register. We are sending out email blasts, but you could go to Constant Contacts, and you could also go to Eventbrite to actually register for this event.
Okay. And again, what should they look for so that they can register for it?
So you should look up the Wealth Summit, WELLTH Summit. Again, it's March 29th, which is next Saturday. So make sure that you come. You're going to get a wealth of information to really help you to transform where you are currently, helping you do that assessment to where you need to be. You're going to see.
Hold that point. She is so much fun, isn't she? We are.
I get so excited. I'm sorry.
I can tell. I need to take a break, and I promise, as always, we're going to post that information on our website on WHUR. So please stay with us. The Original Quiet Storm with Raheem Devon is next on WHUR. I'm Harold Fisher. This conversation continues on Sirius XM channel 141 and 96.3 HD2 in just a few seconds. Welcome back to the Daily Drum on Sirius XM channel 141. I'm Harold Fisher. We continue our conversation about a well-being and wallet checkup. My guests are Amanda Stevenson, founder and CEO of the Fresh Food Factory. Peter Noble is a licensed clinical social worker, and Tamara King, financial professional and insurance agent with New York Life. Before the break, Amanda, we were talking about the summit, which is coming up on the 29th of March, next week from tomorrow. And you were kind of, going into what you hope people will get out of this. And so again, from your perspective, and I really think this is super important, that people have an understanding as it relates to their diet and what they're eating and how they're eating, what it is that they're missing and what they don't know.
I think that's important as well. So we're bringing specialists in to look at your health holistically. And we do understand that there's a direct connection between diet and DNA. Also, there's a connection between your food and your mood. So we have a nutritionist in from Wanda, Miss Tamber Stevenson. She would definitely be there speaking. We also have Mr. Peter Noble, who's on now, and we have other practitioners who will be joining the panel, really dissecting it, delving in deep, and actually helping us with stress relievers, with everything that's happening now. A lot of people are feeling stretched and some are feeling very stretched. They're feeling stressed or stretched. Now, how do we help each other through that? So we're talking about the different dynamics, foods that you could eat to help you ease your mind. So a lot of times we may look at superfoods as a solution, which is a great solution. So you'll be able to actually taste different products. We have someone doing food demonstrations about quick ways to actually implement some of these superfoods in your diet, whether it's through beverage, through foods. And also we have people who are concentrating on ethnic food presentation that's going to be a part of it. So you're going to be able to cook up something different from this experience. Hopefully afterwards, we're going to talk you through some easy ways to make nutritious meals. And on top of that, we're just looking at the financial health of things. So I'm just leading into another segment. The financial health piece, we're going to have experts from New York Life, the Wealth Syndicate, and others talking about your IRA, 401k, insurance, saving plans. As people are getting laid off, as things are transitioning, we have to figure out what the assets that we're having now, what can we do with them to make sure that we are able to invest them going forward. And we do have people to help invest, and some are dealing with government. We have Wakeif. Wakeif owns the location that we're in, and we've been working with them for many years. And we're going to be talking about wealth generation. We're going to be talking about strategies for managing, growing, and transferring wealth, focusing on real estate, entrepreneurship, and investment. So they were very instrumental to me to help me to acquire a commercial property. So I'm letting everybody into my life, but I always want to share the wealth of information, right? So if I found something that works, let me share it so more people could actually walk into that door. So Wakeif and Capital Impact partners, 2 CDFIs who helped me to close a gap that I needed to walk into ownership. And my father always said, people will always control you if they own what you eat, own where you stay, own whatever. So ownership is king, especially now. We need to have a conversation about owning businesses. A lot of boomers are separating from the businesses that they own and are selling those businesses. Why aren't we having conversations conversations in our community about acquiring them. They already have the credit, they already have the longevity, already been proven. So we have different experts to talk about buying, people who've gone through the process, and also M&T Bank. You have the SBA, who has great products. I used to work for the SBA Small Business Development Center, but you can use like the 7A loan and different programs that help with acquisition. But DC government has like the commercial property acquisition program. WACF has a lot of ownership programs and small business assistance, as well as the Latino Economic Development Corporation. And we do have an attorney on board to help us maturate through the whole process. And also, as we're building wealth, we have things in place, instruments like wills and trusts and different things to make sure we could hold on to it, but also to make sure that we could transfer it. So that is pretty much what we're actually sharing in the day. And we want people to know that this is here for you. You're not paying for these services. Come get them. There are going to be follow-up sessions that you could actually book with these experts, but we're giving you information because we love, we care, and we are part of the fabric of the community. So we want all of us to do well.
Let me ask you, Peter, because you're going to be on at least a panel, maybe more. What is your message to the people who attend? What is the point that you really want to drive home about mental health?
Yeah, thank you. Mental health is impacted by so many areas of our life. Our relationships, the quality of how we relate with our family and friends, and the connections that we make. Our sense that we can contribute through work, through volunteerism, that we're valued and respected. Also, our mental health can also be impacted in terms of our conscience, in terms of how we operate in the world morally.
What do you mean by that?
There are some people that are impacted by feelings of guilt and shame, feeling as though there can be, I guess, an internal conflict by pursuing things financially or otherwise that have value, but doing things in such a way that compromise their sense of integrity or eat away in some kind of sense. So I know that in the context of mental health, a sense of morality, a sense of spirituality is sometimes divorced. But it really is a part of someone having a sense of purpose and meaning to kind of to be able to operate with good health in the world. So, you know, our world has really kind of forced us to become much more isolated. In some ways, being able to work from home, as I am right now, as everyone appears to be, is such a gift and such a blessing. But it also pulls us away and causes us to become more isolated, right? And so there are some pluses, but things that are added to us, but things that can be also taken away from us in terms of our isolation. And that can be exacerbated when people go and start doom scrolling on social media. And it's like one can get fed, I guess you could say, a substitute for real relationships by watching people talk to you through a screen. And the connection it's not substantive because, you know, they're not loving you. You're not loving them. You're not, there is a sense of community in social media, but it's not the kind of relationship you have in long-term family and friendships. So I'm looking at, you know, what's happening with myself, my family, the people that I know, and the people in my community in terms of isolation, and that's so detrimental to our sense of well-being. Human beings are, by nature, social beings. Now that's going to look different based on temperaments, but we need one another to, I guess, to find sense of meaning, sense of purpose, sense of belonging, to be encouraged, because life is full of blessings, but it's also, you know, as you guys very well know, full of challenges and stressors. And so if it was anything that I could try to, if I had one central message, it would be to pursue connection. I know as a mental health provider that many of the people that become vulnerable to mental health disorders and challenges are isolated. People that are depressed or dealing with major depression, anxiety, and trauma. One of the things that people often do is pull back in terms of their connections. So if there's anything I want to kind of, encourage is reconnect with your family members, find social connections, whether it's through a local church or whether it's through a hobby that has a social kind of connection, to do those kinds of things that build opportunities for meaningful kinds of exchange.
You, Peter, you make a really hyper relevant point. I was just thinking that, and I would imagine that all of us here are old enough to remember when, before there was Zoom, before there was texting, before there was social media, and the possibilities of isolation were really, really high because people didn't always live together or in close proximity. And so having the technology and the ability to connect and to see grandma or grandpa or the new baby or what have you when they live in another state or on the other side of the world. But I think, to your point, Peter, and as this has contributed to mental health issues, is that now that technological convenience has sometimes been used as a shield or a barrier to seeing people who are close by that you would normally see in person, and to be able to touch. And I think in our community, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but once people begin to unconsciously self-isolate, well, I'm not going to go and see, Steve, or I'm not going to go and see, Tamara, even though she's just across town or he's just around the corner, when I can just text or I can just FaceTime or what have you. And the warmth that is often created in that moment begins to be missed.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you 100%. There are definitely pluses to being able to connect, but there are so many things that are lost. Currently, I'm working for a mental health company as a program manager for their school-based program. And I'm across the city, the therapists that or the program connected with me are seeing kids that aren't as developed in terms of their social skill and ability to regulate emotions as before the pandemic. So from little things, from eye contact, from being able to initiate conversations, to regulate frustration and to be patient in normal social situations, to be able
to talk like Amanda.
Or to talk like Amanda, to ask for help. All those things. And it really kind of concerns me when I think about the future. I'm like, wow, there are so many young people that it's just around the corner. They're going to be adults. And, I don't want to take all the time up, but, you see on the news about how, people, young people that are entering the job market aren't making it and they're being let go. And so I'm concerned because our ability to connect, relate, work, all of that stuff contributes to our health and flourishing and well-being. It impacts us in terms of finances. It impacts us in every region of life. And so, Amanda earlier said food is mood, and, we're exposed to all sorts of foods, and, people aren't operating with financial literacy, and so they're struggling, and all of it just combines into some ugly mess. And so, the solution is big picture. I'm a person of faith, and so for me, I can't leave that out. I'm going to pray. I'm going to connect with my faith community, and that gives me a sense of hope beyond the dark moments now, and it gives me groundedness in relationships where we share the same kinds of values.
Mm-hmm.
And so before even mental health and Freud were even around, there were people in communities living by faith together and walking in peace through struggle and trials.
Speaking of the future, Tamara, I did want to ask you, when you talk about generational wealth, when you first start to have that conversation, how do you start that conversation for those who are not in that space, not thinking about it?
I would ask them what matters to them most. Some people have children, so a lot of times we don't consider that we may not make it home tomorrow to see them. So that's something, unfortunately, you have to tie into people's emotions. And that's usually how I start the question. And I say, I also ask about budget, because like, I don't feel like people, just like that DoorDash question, I don't feel like people should do anything outside the means of what they can afford. So yes, it may make ideal sense. Oh, you could get $1 million insurance for like $30, right? But if they say I can't afford that, but like $15, then I'm like, okay, then we're gonna find a way for you to just do what you can afford. So I think that and partnering with other people within the community is important based on their need. So if there's a business, they may need credit repair. So I need to, other than just making a transaction sale, I need to be able to help them find someone that can repair their credit. So it's actually seeing the whole picture rather than just one part. And that's one thing I like about a career agency insurance companies, because it's more about building a financial house and seeing a holistic approach rather than just a transaction. Annually, one of our requirements is to check in to say, hey, how you doing? Is everything still the same? And that's usually how it happens. And you build relationships with people is really important. But asking a question about what matters most to them and letting them visually see the picture on what it looks like if they're out of the equation.
So here's another question for you. I'm sure you see people across the vast economic financial spectrum, but let's throw out the folks who are struggling, low income earners, and let's throw out the folks who are making a whole lot of money, and just talking about the folks who are in the middle with good jobs, good careers. They may own their own businesses, but they are still struggling with their finances, struggling with debt. What do you believe is the common denominator for why they are? Is it keeping up with the Joneses? Is it not understanding money? And depending on what it is, what do you tell them? Because these are obviously things that are ingrained to get them in, that position. I mean, if they pay off all their debt, hooray, and then they go right back in. What's going on there? What do you think?
So that is also, I feel like that's when I need a therapist also to partner with, right? So I would approach the situation typically saying like, okay, what value does that asset have? Is it an asset that's going to build wealth for you, or is it an asset that's going to take away wealth from you? That would be the question, right? I always feel like visual aids are important, because sometimes talking, it goes in one ear and out the other. So they visually have to see what their budget, how their budget is being used, and seeing an option. It could be a life insurance policy that's tax deferred or that's tax free. It could be a conversation about the employee benefits. That's like the hugest opportunity when it comes to dealing with people, because everyone feels like they have insurance until they either are getting let go, or they are disabled and maybe their job is fighting them against their workers' comp and disability. So it's always about what role they play in their household and what would be affected if they're no longer able to perform. So that's always my approach, and always the visual that I have to create for the person.
So if they can't see it, they may not be able to be it.
Yes, and understanding that you don't want your life insurance tied into your employer. You don't, unless it's portable. If it's not portable, there's people that come to us at like age 65 attempting to get life insurance because they're like, oh, I was retired. I thought I had this insurance for the rest of my life. You have it at a group rate, but once you turn 65, it goes. You have to pay whatever health that you are at that time. That's what you're gonna pay, and it goes up. So that taps into Social Security. That taps into income they thought that they had, that it's not there. So visually educating people about the employee benefits when they're able to work and healthy, and understanding that private insurance is always the way to go to supplement what you already have. And then understanding it. Do not like sign anything until you understand what you're doing. So there'll be people like, oh, I want a whole life policy for $500, $600. It sounds good to my pockets, but I can't do it if I know that you're making $50,000 a year and you don't have that money to do that. You understand? So it doesn't make me feel good. So I feel like being ethical and finding someone that you can connect with, and understanding, again, your budget and what your place in your household, or in that people, your children, whoever's dependent on you, what are they going to need to move on? So
Amanda, I do want to ask you some specific things about attitudes around food. Yes, we know that food deserts are prevalent in the suburbs, in some cases, in the cities, and even in rural communities. But I want to talk about, if you have access, if you don't have food deserts, how do you change mindsets about eating healthy? Because it's been my experience through talking with experts and the like, that even if you have access to it, there are a whole lot of people who say, I ain't gonna eat that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself shaking my head because I feel like we're having church right now. But I love what we're building.
Church.
I love what we're building. I do a lot of demonstrations, and this is going to be a part of what we do. So when I opened, we had an event, an experience where people could come taste different foods, because it's unfortunate that we have people who haven't really experienced the taste of certain fruits and vegetables that some of us may seem basic. Some people may not know what a kiwi is, and that may seem unusual, but that's the reality. In certain neighborhoods, they have inconvenience stores, or they're going to a liquor store to get food that don't have produce that the middle class or upper class may have, and it's unfortunate. Or you have people in urban and rural areas, and they're growing from major manufacturers, and then you have food deserts in rural communities where you have a lot of farming. So I like to actually bring the food to the people, meet them where they are, and say, hey, this is this food product. This is where it's sourced from. This is what it tastes like here. Be a part of the experience. So we're going to have interaction on Saturday, the 29th. But I always incorporate that into our program, because I do understand a lot of people have reservation, especially about beets and vegetables or whatever. But once I help them to understand about the benefit of it and understand how it tastes and how they prepare it, they're more apt to making a transition. So that's why we're looking at making this wealth and health transformation. You got to meet them where they are, come to them, help them see it. And we're hoping that the people come the day of to kind of meet us where we're trying to meet them, so they could actually get a chance to be exposed to something different. But we have had a lot of people east of the river, again, who are vegans, vegetarian, who are more health conscious, but they just have to shop somewhere else because they didn't have access. So it's not that, everybody here, we have to educate, but there is a large percentage of people we have to educate because they don't have it accessible. It hasn't been around them for generations. They haven't seen it. They haven't been taught. So we have to do a lot of education on top of our food access that we're bringing. So I can't have one without the other. And hey, we're providing a grocery store, but I say we're more than a grocery store. We are an experience. We are helping to build an oasis where people could participate in this. So at our markets, we have kitchen incubators and also a marketplace for people to actually sell product, so we could actually increase the food supply, the diversity of the food supply, more ethnic foods in the food supply in our communities. Whatever's going to happen, a lot of people are having these conversations the next few years or several years or many years, what they could look like. But how do we plan for that? How do we prepare community for that? How do we create jobs in that space? How do we make sure that these foods are accessible to us? So we have to educate in this process. And a lot of times I do that through demonstration, and people could see how they could then connect to it.
So real quick, before we wrap up, it's on the 29th. It's 1 week from tomorrow, Saturday, March 29th. And you said it starts at 10:30?
Yes, they could come register at 10:30 and we start shop at 11. Get 30 minutes to get in, meet the vendors. We have a lot of vendors that are going to be there in the health, nutrition, wellness space. Get your BMI check, understand your numbers, see these superfoods, how they work, a lot of other things that you could actually do and taste and see and be a part of. But we're going to start shop with the presentation. Tamara is going to kick us off. We're going to hit them hard with understanding wealth, and then we're going to just go from there.
And that's at the Anacostia Arts Center. It's at 1231 Good Hope Road.
Yeah, 1231 Marionberry Avenue. There's been an official name change for that street.
Oh, that's right, Marionberry Avenue. That's right. I've been around for so long.
I think 14th Street Northwest that stretches from Virginia all the way to Maryland should have been Marionberry Avenue. I don't know, but I mean, he's done a lot for the whole city.
Well, when we talk to the mayor about that, I'll make sure that I have you on.
That's okay. That's between us.
Tamara King, Peter Noble, Amanda Stevenson, thank you all so very, very much. I really appreciate it. Good luck to you all and good health to you all. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is the Daily Drum for this Friday, March 21st. For News Director Renee Nash, I'm Harold Fisher. Good night and have a wonderful weekend.